We have 4 cases. I understand 2 of them may be withdrawn, and we have 4 members present. Well, 3 members present, and Mary Julie is joining us online. Good morning, Ms. Ross. I understand that you wanted to request a withdrawal for the first 2 cases.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then we're going to go ahead and vote on those 2 cases. Then I will go ahead and move that we withdraw case number 1, RPC 1601803A at 1500 Key Boulevard. With us, Mr. Mendez will second. So that is withdrawn. We'll go to the second case, RPC 34027-063 at 3535 South Ball Street. I will also go ahead and move that we withdraw that case. Mr. Mendez will second again. So those 2 cases are withdrawn. Thank you. So
Thank you.
We're going to go to the third case, RPC 17012-021 at 1515 North Courthouse Road. And you can start with your 8 minutes, Ms. Ross.
Okay. This property is a 12-story office building constructed in 1999 and is 260,786 square feet. The assessed value for 2025 is 74,093,200. If I could refer you guys to page 54 of the county's package, you could see a side-by-side analysis of our approach and the county's approach. The gross potential income is 11,152,540. This includes the current rents in place, plus the vacant space was grossed up at $37.85 a square foot. That rate was based on CoStar's advertised market asking rent of $40.27 a square foot, adjusting it downward by 6% to account for the current concessions being offered. Parking income was the amount of $427,000. Pass-throughs were in the amount of $493,000. Our vacancy assumption was 28%, which is based on the county's 25 guidelines. And our operating expenses come directly from the calendar year and 2024 I&E are $12.33 a square foot. We did increase the county's cap rate of 8.9% by 50 basis points to 9.4 to reflect the property's persistent excess vacancy. We did apply a lease up discount as well for the excess vacancy. The actual vacancy was at 41.27%. Subtracting out the assumed vacancy in our pro forma of 28%, we're left with 13.27% or 34,597 square feet. To that, we used the rent assumed above at $37.85 a square foot, with TIs in the amount of $90 a square foot. Leasing commission at 6%, amortized over 5 years, which is the same assumptions that the county uses. Our discount for lease up was $4,816,100. That made our adjusted requested value of $56,250,960. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Mr. Peralta. You can start with your 8 minutes in this case.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Looking at this project, Courthouse Tower, I believe the board is familiar with this property. It's catty corner to the county building. The Bayou Bakery's located on the main floor there. Looking at the history, as you see in columns A, B, and C, with the exception of column B, you'll see the net operating income is greater, and in column E, greater than what is captured in the 2025 assessment. The column B showing a net operating income of almost half of what has been reported in previous and current years is a reflection of the concessions and some of the income that wasn't been reported in the 2022 calendar year. When looking at the column D, the original assessment shows a per square foot rate of $49 a square feet, vacant office at $44 a square feet, and retail at $35 a square feet. Upon review, we did find that the average rent for leased office at $46.67 and for retail $54.05. So we made the adjustments going forward in the test column. We did find that at one point the operating year showed 101,195 square feet being reported. Upon reviewing more in depth, we did find conflicting per square foot rates. I'm sorry, vacant total vacant square foot rates being shown. Page 93 of 130 is a rent roll that shows 92,675 square feet being vacant. That's exactly what the 2025 assessment shows there at 92,675. And we did find that other subsequent rent rolls that were given to the county showed 73,751 square feet. That's about 28% compared to the total square feet at 260,786 square feet. So in looking at the test, it does show that we overstated the vacancy. And that is attributable to some of the National Association of Corporate Lease. We did find that in the packet, Ms. Ross had pointed out that some of the space was vacated. It wasn't quite clear whether or not they're paying on this lease. The lease does show that it expires in 2028. And upon looking through CoStar and finding another suite that was leased, Spirit of America leased the space, 8,520 square feet. It's a spec suite. And they leased the space in October 31st of 2024. Expected move-in date was December 2024. I understand Ms. Ross had pointed out they're not paying rent in 2025, but for the county's purposes, we do view this this space as being occupied. Looking at comparing columns E and F, you do see that there's a difference in the, columns D and E. You'll see there's a difference there where we understated the miscellaneous income. In 2024, they're reporting 1.9 million in miscellaneous income. Pass-through income, we understated it by about 400,000, and understated parking. We did break down the various income streams, office, vacant office, and retail versus how they reported in column E as a total amount. And you'll see that in column G, there's the appellant has kind of lumped all the incomes together, and the overall rate there that they use is $42.82. Where if I can remind you that the average leases in the office were $46.67, and retail was averaging $54. So we believe that the test column shows more accurate account of the per square foot rates. Again, in reviewing this, we did find that maybe we might have overstated the vacant square feet, the total vacant square feet. What that would do in test column would essentially eliminate the below the line adjustments, because that, again, I pointed out that the two rent rolls that were provided at most would have been 28% vacancy adjustment. And then in column F, it would totally eliminate the excess vacancy below the line. But in the original assessment, the 92,675 vacancy would match up to what was reported in page 93 of 130 rent roll. So we do ask that the board confirm the original assessment at $74,093,200. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board? No? Okay, we'll go to wrap-ups. Mr. Peralta, do you have anything to add?
No, I think I went over a lot of the major points. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Ross, you have a minute to wrap up and add anything else you would like to.
Okay, the vacant space as of January 1 was 34,597 square feet. Rob, if you had any questions, you could have just given me a call. One thing I do want to point out on the I&E statement for 2024, it includes a $1.5 million lease termination fee, which should be excluded from any stabilized income analysis, as it's not recurring. It's a one-time item. Also, as far as the market rates, taking an average, it's just flawed methodology because many of these leases are legacy agreements signed under different market conditions. You know, office space has changed over the years. More relevant data of the market, there's 2 new leases that were signed in 2024, one for 45 and one for 25. And also the Spirit of America lease, which Rob did mention they weren't paying any rents for 2025. We did include that. That was actually commenced on February 1, 2025 at a rate of $38.50. So the market rate that we're using of $37.84 is well supported and appropriate. Another thing.
Your time is up, Ms. Ross.
Oh, my time. I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you very much for your time.
No problem. Thank you. Okay, some of the board now. Where do we stand? Mr. Mendez?
Yeah, just comparing column D, E, looks like the NOI the county used is a lot lower than what was reported, so I didn't really see any issues based on that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, even taking the termination payment, 1.9, it's still higher than what the county used. And I don't really see where, the vacancy that was used in the original assessment is 28%. So, I mean, all numbers are in favor of the appellant, so I'm not really sure where to make any change if there was any.
I'll make a motion to confirm county.
Sure. Have a motion to confirm.
Second.
Mr. Mendez will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so it is a 4-0 vote. So the assessment is being confirmed at $74,093,200.
Thank you for your time. Have a great day.
Thank you, Mr. West. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right, we'll go to the last case, RPC 14051-356 at 801 North Glebe Road. And I believe we have Mr. Harmon. Good morning.
Good morning.
You can start with your minutes, Mr. Harmon.
Yes, thank you, members of the board. Another good morning. So this property is the Weston in Ballston. It's located right there on Glebe Road. I'm sure you're familiar with it, Glebe between Fairfax and Wilson. As of the date of value, a major issue at this property is that the owner was required to complete a property improvement plan estimated to cost over around $25 million. Now, that value is indicative of a typical PIP, but it's also been delayed by several years. Those costs have been increasing as well as being accrued as that PIP is further delayed. So that is a major issue with this property. As of the date of value, they had an outstanding known expense to continue operations that was around $25 million. Now, as you can see from the first page on the county submission, the 2025 assessment does represent an increase of more than 50% from last year's assessment. The current assessment values this property at $285,000 per feet. When reviewing this property, we have previously heard guidance from the Board of Equalization on a prior hotel case that sales of properties with the same flag are compelling evidence of value. To that end, we do have a sale of a common flag, another Weston, occurred recently in DC City Center. For this property, again, that sale at DC City Center, the Weston, the market valued that property at $224,000 per key. $224,000 is what it actually sold. DC City Center, Weston, current assessment on this property, $285,000 per key. You can see the details of that City Center sale beginning on page 39 of the county's board memo. It's important to note that the City Center Weston sold after having recently completed a property improvement plan. So the City Center Weston sold $224,000 per key after having just completed a PIP. The subject property has an outstanding PIP of roughly $25 million yet to complete, and yet it's valued at $285,000 per unit. Now, adjusting the subject property to account for the fact that this does have an outstanding PIP, we get to a value of roughly $50.7 million before personal is deducted. Now, that value, once they complete that PIP, it gets it up to $236,000 per unit. So above the City Center Weston comp that recently transacted. And that makes sense. Before the PIP is completed, the property is not worth as much because you have that outstanding expense that must be completed to continue operations as a Weston. Once you complete it, our value gets you to just above the sale comp at City Center Weston. Now, Weston City Center, of course, located in one of the most desirable parts of the district, one of the most desirable portions of the DMV, the entire region. It's walking distance to some of the most high-end shops in the region, including Hermes, Dior, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Chanel, walking distance to the White House, walking distance to the Washington Convention Center, centrally located within a drive just a few minutes from virtually anywhere in the city. By all accounts, City Center, DC is a prime location, very desirable. It's a good comp for Ballston. There's no way that you can say Ballston is a different neighborhood, as far as desirability. As far as better, by all accounts, City Center is the same, if not better, than Ballston. So digging into the metrics of that sale comp compared to the subject, we see between the two properties, occupancy was comparable at the two properties for 2024. The average daily rate ADR was 15% higher at the Weston City Center than at the subject. FPAR in 2024 was 3.6% higher at the City Center Weston sale comp than at the subject property. So by all accounts, location, actual metrics, the sale comp at Weston City Center is a good comp for the subject. It is arguably better located, and the actual data, show that the property is performing better than the subject property. But yet again, that property having just completed a PIP, the sale comp having just completed a PIP, having better operating metrics, having a better location, sold for $225 a unit, or I'm sorry, per key, versus the subject assessed at $285,000. So, there's a bit of a disconnect between where the market values these properties and where the assessment values this property. So how did the assessment get so high for the Ballston Weston? Well, if you'd be so kind as to direct your attention to our appeal beginning on page 23 of the county's submission, you'll see the summary of the facts for this property. Here you can see the current assessment overstates actual total revenue received based on prior year income. The assessment imputes a cap rate that it's well below what both the sale comps and investor surveys show an appropriate cap rate should be. And the assessment ignores the very real, very much required, huge outlays of cash required by that PIP. Looking at these items in order, we see that the county relies heavily on countywide averages in support of their valuation as compared to the broader state, as compared to Fairfax County, as compared to Alexandria, as compared to DC. This misses the point that we're assessing this single property. Once we pull back from generalized comparisons and look at the actual comparison of this property, and we compare it to actual market sales, we see that this property is reporting lower ADR, lower RevPAR. Next, the county's own cap rate summary, this is page 9 of the county's submission, shows that the assessment's assumed cap rate is not appropriate based on their support that the county has provided. This property, as I stated, is required to spend approximately $25 million on it. in order to maintain operations as a Westin. This PIP includes renovating all guest rooms, common corridors. The cost of the PIP is as it is because it's overdue. It means the condition of the rooms and corridors is outdated and below average for this property type. Looking at the county's cap rate sources on page 9, we see the average cap rates listed range from 8.25 to 10.7%. Due to the condition of the subject property, it is appropriate within these cap rate ranges to evaluate it at the average at best. Finally, the assessment fails to acknowledge the outstanding cost of the PIP at all. The PIP, again, is approximately $25 million. It's required to continue operations as a Westin. This money is required to be spent in order to continue operations. The details begin on page 24 of the county's memo. As info, the most recent cost estimates after I know the county says this has been completed, the lobby and the fitness center were completed. You back those out. The current cost estimate is still right at $25 million, yet to be completed. This is a real cost the owner must spend in order to continue operating. The fact pattern of this property matches that of Arlington v. Ginsburg. This is a Supreme Court case that we've included in the board book beginning on page 154. In that case, the Supreme Court of Virginia ruled that fair market value of a property must be reduced by the cost of rehabilitating the property to obtain the projected income. In this case, the county has assessed the property as a Westin, continuing operations as a Westin. In order to continue operating as a Westin, the owner must spend approximately $25 million. Any potential buyer, as of the date of value, would factor in the cost of that PIP that is required to continue operations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Ms. Shuttlesworth. You're going to
Good
start with
morning, board. Good morning, Jordan. So this is a full-service hotel with 336 rooms and approximately 9,500 square feet of meeting space. I inspected this property just last month. The appellants are contesting the cap rate, revenues, and year-over-year increase in the assessment. They also state that we did not account for over $20 million for the capital improvements, which are mandated, just like Mr. Herman stated, by the franchise agreement. The property was built in 2006. It went through significant renovation in 2015, which included corridors, lobby, meeting rooms, and boardrooms. The appellants did provide a copy of PIP dated April 7, 2016. The improvement plan consists of two separate phases. Phase 1, which was finalized already as of January 1, included renovation of the fitness room, partial renovation of the restaurant, partial renovation of the guest bathrooms. The work, again, was already completed as of January 1. Now, the phase 2, which is far more extensive, includes full renovations of the guest rooms. It was originally scheduled to be complete no later than October 2021. However, the property owners negotiated an extension on at least one occasion, yes, to the best of my knowledge. And as of the date of the inspection, which was just last month, only one guest room was renovated, which was the model room. The property manager stated that the renovation of the guest rooms will start sometime in 2026. Essentially, phase 1 was complete as of January 1, and phase 2 has not exactly started yet, with the exception of that one guest room. As of January 1, the property was 79% occupied. The board had a chance to hear several hotel cases this year, and we presented the cap rates support, which is on page 9. When it comes to the financial metrics, such as occupancy rate, ADR, revenue per room, hotels in Arlington outperform all other hotels in the state of Virginia. They also outperform hotels in DC. The average occupancy rate in Arlington was over 10% higher when compared to the statewide average. It was almost 5% higher than DC and 7% higher than Alexandria. The average ADR in Arlington was $62 higher than the statewide average. It was almost $10 higher than DC and almost $40 higher than Alexandria. Similar trend was noted in revenue per room, with Arlington's average revenue per room being almost $60 higher when compared to the statewide average, $16 higher than compared to DC, and over $30 higher than Alexandria. It was even higher than $40 higher than hotels in Dallas. With that, I'm open. I just wanted to add that the comparable that the appellants include in the packet, which is on page 39, the 1400 M Street Northwest, that sale took place in February 2025, so we had no knowledge of this sale during the valuation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board? Mr. Yates?
To the county, would knowing of that sale change your opinion?
No, this sale might be used for 2026 valuation.
And to Jordan, you mentioned that the renovations have been delayed several years. What indication is there that it won't be delayed again or partially delayed again?
So they're kind of at the end of their ability to continue it. So to give you an idea, PIPs are typically every 5 to 7 years at Weston's. The last time this property was renovated, I believe, was 10 or 11 years ago. So they're kind of running thin on leeway with the national brands, is my understanding. And they're putting together the capital stack to get this done because they're, at the end of the line as far as timing goes for this renovation. It's already almost twice as long as it typically takes.
But there's nothing in writing yet, or that the full thing would be done. And I mean, that's a negotiation I typically win in the scheduling of it and things, but there's nothing in writing now.
So we did inspect it and they told us a timeline that they have. Let me find that. So they said it's 2026 is when it's anticipated to start, is at the end of 2026. And as Annetta testified, they have completed phase 1. Phase 2 is set to begin end of 2026.
Mr. Mendez?
Yeah, for Jordan, you mentioned that phase 1 has been completed. How much so they've already spent some of that 25 million on the property?
So the total estimate of the PIP was 26.2. They have completed about 1.75.
Meaning
It's just under 25 million.
So they've completed $1.75 million worth of work. That's what you're saying.
Approximately. Yeah, I can get you the exact number.
And that was the entirety of phase 1.
That's correct. Phase 1 was the ground floor lobby, lounge and restrooms, interior signage, and the fitness center. So that total was 1.65 million out of the total projected cost of 26.73. So that leaves 24.53 remaining.
24.53. Okay, I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Ms. Shuttlesworth, I just had a question on the cap rates. I know you pointed out, on page 9, those surveys. I'm looking at all the averages, they are much higher than what you used on the current assessment. Is there a reason why that one is just a little bit lower?
Well, we're looking at Arlington, and again, Arlington hotels outperformed other hotels in the state of Virginia, and therefore we were not looking at averages exactly, and we were not looking at the lower end ranges as well when it comes to the cap rates. Also, we analyzed several INEs submitted to us, and we made the best judgment based on that information.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No? All right, we'll go to wrap-ups. If you want to add anything else, Ms. Shuttlesworth, in your wrap-up?
Sure, thank you. So again, hotels in Arlington performed extremely well for the past 2 years. The subject reported over 4% increase in NOI. The appellants are projecting 1% decline in NOI. The guest room renovation work will not begin until the late 2026. The NOI reported for the past 3 years have increased over 250% in 22 and 33% in 2023. And I just wanted to add one last thing. When I tested higher OPEX in my column F, my projected NOI showed a decline in NOI, which actually contradicts with the historical trend demonstrated by this property. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harmon, you have a minute to wrap up?
Yes, thank you. So essentially, we have a recent sale comp of another West that was in a better location, DC Center, City Center, that had better operating metrics. All we heard from the county was Arlington in general is better than the state. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That would Martinsburg probably doesn't perform as well as Arlington County. Sure, sure. How does it compare to actual comps? How does this property compare to other Westons? This property is underperforming the sale DC City Center. DC City Center, that property had just completed a PIP sold for $224,000 per unit, per key, I'm sorry. This property is currently assessed at $285,000 per key and requires a nearly $25 million PIP to be completed. There's a disconnect there. That doesn't add up. Now, our analysis on page 23 of the county memo arrives at a value that once that PIP is completed, put it at $237,000 per key. That's better than the city center comp. That's in line with where the market values this type of property. Now, the cap rate, there's no effective age adjustment. If there were, similar to an office, this property would need a big one because of that outstanding PIP.
Okay.
However, the county uses the low end of the cap rates instead of the average. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, it's among the board now. Where do we stand? I know there's there may be or not some difference, but I mean, Arlington is, I've always said, it's a different market. We can compare, we can go as close as Alexandria or DC, but I don't feel that great on comparing to any other DC property. But I mean, it's a big jump from last year to today.
And as far as the work needs done, you can stretch that out. There's no assurance, and I understand that if someone would buy this property, they're going to look at what it's going to do. But it's an unknown. It is an unknown. I understand he's saying it's 25 million, and they hope the plan to have it done by the end of 26, but they don't have a document.
How have we treated properties like this in the past? I don't quite remember. I know we've heard it before, like, various hotels having to shell out a bunch of money for this before. I can't remember how we ruled.
Not exactly sure if I can remember a specific case that compare exactly to this.
I agree 50% is a big jump, year over year. I think the average for hotels was what, 20, 22, somewhere in that range.
If you, and I'm not advocating this, but if you took the 25 million off of the county's column B, puts it about 70, a little over 71, somewhere there. But I know from we managed the Sheraton, we stretched that thing out, and then we went back to the franchise and then renegotiated.
Yeah. No, I don't think we did any.
Yeah, you don't know.
Yeah, I don't recall.
I mean, the worst you're going to get.
Yeah, I mean, I can sympathize, but I don't really see that, based on the performance, I think, I don't think the county's made a mistake on this. And, cap rate is something that I always look at, and I try to see who's on the lower end, who's on the upper end, and, you know, most of the time, it's within the range that, we should be. I know the appellants disagree with it, and they should, you know, they think it should be more on the higher side, but, it's been year after year, so I'm okay with it.
The NOI is so close in column D and E. But I do wonder if someone were to buy this building, I mean, they would have to take into account this,
They absolutely would.
you know, $25 million cost. So I don't want to just, you know, set it aside. I don't see where I could need to adjust on the assessment itself. You know, expenses, et cetera. I just deduct it from the bottom.
I looked at that and that puts it about 71. I didn't get math,
I got 71,000,008
but
36.
there's no assurance
They have to do.
and or it will be done to that level. Ultimately, they can negotiate that.
Well,
As
there's
they've done
no-
already, years.
There's no assurance that it will be done. And then also, my only concern is that then the equalization with other properties with this, where we don't deduct it below the line net.
Buyers always go in and renovate.
I'm sorry?
Oh. Buyers quite often go in and renovate a property.
Right.
To improve it. So I mean, it's, they just happen to have a bit of a plan. I think,
Yeah, customarily as a board, I don't think we made deductions on that.
no,
Like,
I
I
don't think
don't-
so either.
well, based on that, I'm going to move that we go ahead and confirm the assessment at 96,332,600. We have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Right, so it is 4-0. The assessment is being confirmed, Mr. Harmon, at 96,332,600. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, I think that concludes our agenda for today. If there's anything else from any board members? No, nothing? All right, so we're going to go ahead and adjourn, and the time is 9:38, and we'll see everybody next week. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, recording is stopped.
Thank you.